art student found a collapsed vampire outside her apartment with no pulse and ice-cold skin. The vampire underworld assumed he was just another dying exile. What they didn't know, he was their banished king, stripped of power for refusing to lead a massacre. And the girl who saved him was about to break a seal that had held for centuries. The rain came down in sheets across modern London, turning the slick pavement into a mirror of streetlights and neon cafe signs. Rosa Nightingale pulled her paint-stained canvas bag higher on her shoulder, boots splashing through puddles as she hurried toward her apartment complex. Her fingers still smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner from the closing shift. Her back ached from 8 hours of smiling at customers who never tipped. Her bank account held exactly $247, not nearly enough to cover next month's tuition payment. She was fishing for her keys when she heard it. A soft, heavy thud, like a body hitting concrete. Rosa turned slowly. A man was collapsed against the wrought iron gate of her apartment building. Not just collapsed, crumpled, like someone had dropped him from a great height. "Hey!" her voice cut through the rain. "Are you all right?" No response. Rosa rushed forward, her bag hitting the ground. As she got closer, her steps slowed. His clothes were wrong. A long black coat that looked handmade, tailored with precision that didn't exist anymore. A dark shirt beneath, soaked through, no phone, no wallet. But his face made her heart stutter, impossibly pale. Sharp features carved from marble, dark hair plastered to his forehead, and blood, just a thin trail from the corner of his mouth, almost black in the dim light. Rosa dropped to her knees beside him, ignoring the freezing puddle soaking through her jeans. She pressed 2 fingers to his throat, searching for a pulse. Nothing. She tried his wrist. Still nothing. "No, no, no." She placed her palm against his chest. He was breathing, shallow, barely perceptible, but his chest rose and fell. Yet his skin was ice cold, colder than the rain, colder than anything living should be. Call an ambulance, that's what you do. But something stopped her. His clothes. The unnatural stillness, the way he'd fallen in front of her, gait specifically. Then she saw his hand pressed against his chest. Protecting something, gently Rosa pulled his coat open. Her breath caught. Carved into the skin over his heart were symbols. Not tattoos, not scars from an accident. Glyphs. Intricate, deliberate, glowing faintly with light that shouldn't exist. They pulsed in rhythm with his breathing, silver and black, like moonlight through smoke. Ancient, powerful, wrong. "What did they do to you?" Rosa whispered. His eyes snapped open. Gold, pure molten gold, like coins catching firelight. "Don't let them find me." Then his eyes rolled back and he went limp. "What are you? Who's looking for you? She should run. She should call the police." But those eyes, that desperate plea. "Damn it," Rosa muttered. She dragged him into her building, through the tiny lift, into her 3rd-floor studio. She laid him on her bed, the only place he'd fit. Under the light, the glyphs had stopped glowing. Now they just looked like intricate silver scarring, beautiful and terrible. Rosa grabbed her phone. Her thumb hovered over the emergency call button. What if calling for help was exactly what would get him killed? She set her phone down, found a blanket, laid it over him, and sat in the chair across from her bed, watching. 20 minutes passed. Then she heard it. Not sirens, not footsteps, the absence of sound. The rain outside had stopped. The traffic noise had faded. Even the building's old pipes had gone quiet. Rosa moved to the window and carefully pulled the curtain back an inch. 3 figures stood in the street below. They wore long dark coats that gleamed like oil under the street lights. They didn't move like normal people, too fluid, too precise, too aware. One of them tilted his head up, directly at her window. He smiled. Rosa jerked back from the curtain, her heart in her throat. On the bed the man stirred. His eyes fluttered open again, those impossible gold eyes, and fixed on her. "They're here," he whispered. "Who are they?" Rosa demanded, her voice shaking. "What do they want?" His hand moved to his chest, pressing over the glyphs. "Everything I was, everything I'm not allowed to be anymore." His hand caught hers with surprising strength. "If they ask you who I am, tell them you don't know." "I don't know," Rosa shot back. Pain crossed his face. "Good, keep it that way." The knock on her door was soft, polite, terrifying. Rosa didn't open the door. She stood frozen between the stranger on her bed and the strangers outside, her hand pressed against the wood, listening. Silence. Then footsteps, soft, deliberate, moving away from her door down the hallway, fading like smoke. They were gone. But Rosa knew they weren't really gone. They were waiting, watching. She turned back to the bed. The man's eyes were closed again, his breathing so shallow she had to watch his chest to confirm it was still moving. The glyphs beneath his torn shirt had stopped glowing entirely, just silver-traced scars now, beautiful and brutal. "Who are you?" She didn't sleep that night. Morning came grey and cold. Rosa sat curled in her chair, a cold mug of tea in her hands, watching him. He hadn't moved, hadn't eaten, hadn't asked for water. She'd checked on him twice during the night, once at 2 a.m., once at dawn. Both times the same, shallow breathing, ice-cold skin, that impossible stillness, like he was waiting for permission to exist. At 7:30 his eyes opened, gold, clear, aware. He sat up slowly, carefully, like a man testing broken bones. His gaze swept the room, the easel in the corner, her scattered art supplies, the narrow kitchenette before landing on her. "You stayed," he said quietly. "You asked me not to let them find you," Rosa replied. "They came, I didn't answer." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or pain. "Thank you." His voice was different now, clearer, a slight accent she couldn't place, Eastern European, maybe older, formal in a way that felt out of time. "What's your name?" Rosa asked. A pause. Not too long. "Sorin." "Sorin," she repeated. "Those people last night, who were they?" "People I used to know." He stood slowly, steadying himself against the wall. "People I can't afford to know anymore." He moved to the window, staying carefully to the side, out of the direct light filtering through the curtain. Rosa watched him, the way he held himself, straight-backed, controlled, like royalty pretending to be common, the way he avoided her small mirror hanging by the door without seeming to look at it. "Are you hungry?" she asked. "No." "Thirsty?" His jaw tightened. "No." Liar. Thalia showed up at noon with takeout and suspicion. "You're not answering your texts," she said, pushing past Rosa into the flat. "I thought you were—" She stopped. Sorin stood by the window, still as a photograph. He'd borrowed one of Rosa's oversized hoodies, the only thing that fit, and looked simultaneously out of place and dangerously graceful. "Thalia, this is Sorin," Rosa said quickly. "He's staying here for a bit." Thalia's dark eyes went from Sorin to Rosa and back again, sharp and assessing. "Right." She set the food down. "Rosa, can I talk to you? Kitchen?" They stepped into the corner that passed for a kitchen. Thalia kept her voice low but fierce. "Please tell me you didn't just bring home a random man." "He was hurt. He's a vampire, Rosa." Thalia's whisper was urgent. "I can tell from here. Look at him. The way he's standing, the way he's not breathing right. He needed help." "Vampires don't get weak, babe. They get dangerous." Thalia glanced over her shoulder. Sorin was watching the street below, utterly still. Especially the ones who look like kicked puppies. Those are the ones who'll gut you. Rosa's chest tightened. He's not. You don't know what he is. She was right. Rosa didn't. Thalia left an hour later, unconvinced but unwilling to push further. Rosa locked the door behind her and turned. Sorin was sitting upright in the chair now, not leaning back, not relaxed. Perfectly straight, like sleeping against something would be a failure. "She's right," he said quietly. "You don't know what I am." "Then tell me." He looked at her with those gold eyes, ancient and sad. "I'm nothing," he said. "That's the only truth that matters." Rosa crossed the room and knelt in front of him, meeting his gaze. "Liar," she said softly. Before she could think better of it, she reached out and pressed her palm against his chest, over the hidden glyphs beneath the hoodie. The reaction was immediate. Light. The glyphs flared beneath the fabric, silver and black, pulsing like a heartbeat that wasn't there. Sorin gasped, his hand flying up to catch her wrist, but not to push her away, to hold her there. The symbols blazed brighter, forming patterns she didn't understand, a crown, thorns, something that looked like broken chains. Then they dimmed. Sorin released her hand like it had burned him. "Don't," he whispered, his voice raw. "Don't touch them again." "What are they?" "A cage." His eyes closed. "One I can't afford to break." Outside, the church bells from St. Mary's began to toll. Sorin flinched violently, his hands going to his temples, face twisting in pain. "Sorin!" "It's nothing," he gritted out, but his hands were shaking. Rosa pulled the curtains shut, muffling the sound as best she could. When she turned back, he was breathing hard, sweat on his too pale brow. This wasn't just weakness. This was suffering. "Who did this to you?" Rosa demanded. Sorin looked up at her, and for just a moment she saw it. The man beneath the pain. Powerful, broken, ancient. "People who thought mercy was weakness," he said quietly. Before Rosa could respond, she felt it again. That absence of sound. She moved to the window and carefully looked down. A single figure stood across the street this time. Tall, dark coat, watching her building with absolute stillness. Not one of the three from last night. This one was different, older somehow, more dangerous. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up. Their eyes met across the distance. He didn't smile, he simply nodded. Once, then turned and walked away, disappearing into the London crowd like he'd never existed. On the bed, Sorin whispered a single name. Cadril. Cadril came at midnight. Rosa heard the knock, 3 precise taps, and knew instantly it wasn't the building super or a neighbour. Sorin was on his feet before she could move, his body angled between her and the door. For someone who could barely stand yesterday, the shift was startling, not weak. Protective. "Don't answer it," he said quietly. "They already know I'm here." Rosa moved toward the door. "Hiding won't change that." "Rosa!" She opened it. The man in the hallway was tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire year's tuition. Sharp cheekbones, pale skin, dark hair pulled back in a way that was both modern and timeless. His eyes were grey, not warm grey, but winter storm grey. Cold, assessing, dangerous. "Miss Nightingale," his voice was smooth, controlled, with a British accent that sounded expensive. "My name is Cadril. May I come in?" "No," Sorin said from behind her. Cadril's gaze shifted past Rosa, landing on Sorin. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. Pain, anger, regret. "Still giving orders, I see," Cadril said softly, "even when you have no authority to do so." "What do you want?" Rosa kept her hand on the doorframe, blocking entry. To warn you, Cadrill's attention returned to her, sharp as a blade. The man you're sheltering is a risk, a memory, a problem, and you've made yourself part of that problem by involving yourself in his survival. He was dying. He's been dying for years. That's his punishment. Cadrill's expression didn't change. Letting him deteriorate slowly, publicly, a lesson to anyone who thinks mercy is stronger than law. Rosa's stomach turned. A lesson for what? For refusing to lead a massacre, Sorin said quietly behind her. For choosing exile over execution. For being weak when strength was required. You weren't weak, Cadrill said, and for the first time emotion cracked through his voice. You were foolish. The two men stared at each other across the threshold. You need to walk away, Miss Nightingale, Cadrill continued. The Nightkin are watching. The council has questions, and if they decide Sorin's banished blood is becoming too much of a liability... Banished blood? Rosa interrupted. Stripped of title, power, and protection, Cadrill explained. Marked as exiled. Forbidden from feeding, from using his name, from acknowledging what he once was. The Nightkin enforce it. The council ensures it. And I... His jaw tightened. I'm supposed to make certain he stays forgotten. What was he? Rosa demanded. Cadrill smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Ask him. Though I doubt he'll tell you. Shame has a way of silencing even the loudest voices. He stepped back, straightening his already perfect suit. Stay away from him, Miss Nightingale, for your own sake. His grey eyes locked on Sorin one last time. And yours, old friend. Stop letting her get close. You know how this ends. Then he was gone, moving down the hallway with inhuman silence. Rosa closed the door and turned. Sorin stood rigid, his face expressionless. Tell me, Rosa said. No. Sorin! You should listen to him. Sorin moved to the window, staring out at the London night. He's right, I'm a risk. You're better off pretending you never found me. I'm not good at pretending. 2 days later, Rosa made the mistake of going back to work. The cafe was busy, cramped with the evening rush. She was pulling espresso shots when she overheard them. 2 men in expensive suits sitting in the corner booth. They didn't drink their coffee, didn't touch the pastries, just sat, speaking in low voices. But Rosa heard. The Ghost King surfaced again. Impossible. Cadrill would have reported it. Cadrill's loyal to the memory, not the council. You know that. Then we confirm it ourselves. If Sorin Vorenthis is breaking his seal... Rosa's hand slipped. The espresso cup shattered on the floor. Both men looked up. Their eyes weren't brown or blue. They were red. Faintly like embers beneath ash, but unmistakably inhuman. One of them smiled. Careful, love, he said smoothly. Wouldn't want you getting hurt. Rosa forced herself to breathe. Sorry, clumsy. She cleaned up the broken ceramic with shaking hands, hyper-aware of their eyes tracking her every movement. They knew. When her shift ended, she texted Thalia. Can you come over? Need to talk. No response. Rosa tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Unease crawled up her spine. Thalia always answered. Always. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door, stepping out into the cold London evening. The street was busy, tourists, commuters, the usual crowd. But Rosa had learned to feel it now, that absence of sound. She turned. A figure in a dark coat stood 3 shop windows down, utterly still among the moving crowd, watching her. Rosa's heart hammered. She pulled out her phone, tried Thalia again. Nothing. She started walking, fast. Not running. Don't run. Don't show fear. But moving with purpose toward the main road where there'd be cameras, witnesses, safety. The figure followed. Rosa ducked into a side street, then another, trying to lose them in the maze of London's back alleys. Stupid! Stupid! She burst onto a smaller residential street and nearly screamed. Thalia was there, standing under a streetlight, alone, staring at her phone. "Thalia!" Rosa ran toward her. "Thank God, I've been trying to—" She stopped. Thalia looked up slowly. Her eyes were wrong, distant, glazed. "Rosa," she said flatly, "you need to come with me." "What? No, we need to—" "They want to talk to you." Thalia's voice was monotone, robotic. "About the man you're hiding, about why you're protecting banished blood." She'd been compelled. Rosa backed away. "Thalia, fight it. Whatever they did to you, it's easier if you don't resist," Thalia said, stepping forward. "They promise they won't hurt you. They just want information about Sorin, about what he's told you, about whether he's mentioned the throne," a new voice finished. Rosa spun. A woman stepped from the shadows, elegant, beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Dark hair, red lips, and eyes like polished amber. She smiled. "Hello, Rosa. My name is Lady Drusilla." She tilted her head. "And I think it's time we had a conversation about the ghost you're keeping in your bed." Behind Rosa, 3 more figures emerged from the alley, trapped. Drusilla's smile widened. "Don't worry, darling. We're not here to hurt you." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We're here to find out if Sorin Vorenthis is finally remembering who he used to be." Her amber eyes gleamed. "And whether we need to kill him before he does." Rosa's phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't dare look at it, didn't dare move. Drusilla stood 3 feet away, radiating power like heat from a flame. Behind her, Thalia remained frozen, eyes still glazed and empty. What did they do to her? "I can hear your heartbeat," Drusilla said conversationally, "rabbiting away in your chest. Fear does that to humans. It's intoxicating." "Let's her go," Rosa forced her voice steady, nodding toward Thalia. "She has nothing to do with this. On the contrary." Drusilla circled Rosa slowly like a predator assessing prey. "Miss Chen has been quite useful, following you, reporting your movements, though I must say the compulsion was almost unnecessary. She was so worried about you spending time with a vampire." Thalia had been followed for days. "What do you want?" Rosa demanded. "Information?" Drusilla stopped in front of her. "Sorin's been banished for 15 years, sealed, powerless, barely surviving in the gutters of our world. Then suddenly," she stepped closer, "a human girl finds him, brings him home, and his glyphs start reacting." Rosa's stomach dropped. "Oh yes, we know about that." Drusilla's smile was razor sharp. "Did he tell you what those symbols mean? What happens if they fully break?" "He said they're a cage holding back a king." Drusilla's amber eyes glittered. "Sorin Vorenthis wasn't just any vampire, Rosa. He was the crowned ruler of the Vorenthis bloodline, one of the oldest, most powerful lineages in existence. The world tilted. King. 15 years ago, the council ordered him to lead a purge," Drusilla continued. "Eliminate a human trafficking ring that had discovered our existence. Quick, clean, total erasure. But Sorin," her voice dripped with contempt, "refused. Said the humans involved were victims too, that slaughtering hundreds of witnesses would make us the monsters." She laughed, cold and beautiful. "So the council gave him a choice. Execute the order or lose everything. His crown, his power, his name. And he chose exile," Rosa whispered. "He chose weakness." Drusilla's expression hardened. "He let himself be sealed, banished, turned into a cautionary tale. The king who valued human lives over vampire law. That's why Cadril called him foolish. And now," Drusilla said softly, "you're breaking that seal, bit by bit, every time you touch him, Every time he feels something other than isolation, the binding fractures. Rosa's mind raced. The glyphs were designed to feed on loneliness. Very good, Drusilla's smile returned. The council's blood sorcerer was quite proud of that detail. A king alone is a king defeated, but a king who finds connection, purpose, love, she practically spat the word, becomes dangerous again. I'm not. Please, Drusilla waved a dismissive hand. I can smell it on you, the bond forming. It's pathetic, really. A starving artist and a fallen king, playing house while the world burns. She gestured, and one of the figures behind Rosa stepped forward, holding a tablet. Drusilla swiped through images, crime scenes, bodies drained of blood, enchanted silver bullets recovered from vampire corpses. The hunter attacks. Recognize these? Drusilla asked. 7 vampire deaths in 3 weeks, all purebloods, all killed with weapons that shouldn't exist anymore. You said the hunters were extinct, Rosa said carefully. We thought they were, but someone's been arming them, leaking our locations, teaching them the old ways. Drusilla's eyes locked on Rosa. The Night Kin Council believes Sorin might be involved, a banished king seeking revenge by helping our enemies. That's insane. Is it? Drusilla tilted her head. He was betrayed by the council, stripped of everything. Why wouldn't he want to watch us burn? Because he's not like you, Rosa shot back. He chose mercy, even when it destroyed him. For a moment, just a flash, something dark crossed Drusilla's face. Jealousy? Regret? How noble, she said coldly. But nobility doesn't change facts. The hunters are back. Sorin is awakening. And you, sweet Rosa, are the catalyst. Drusilla reached into her coat and pulled out a photograph. Rosa's breath stopped. It was old, faded, but unmistakable. A younger man in formal dress standing beside her father. Daniel Nightingale, Drusilla said quietly, former liaison to the Vorenthis Royal Guard. He helped Sorin escape the night of his banishment, died 3 months later in what police called a random mugging. Tears burned Rosa's eyes. Your father didn't die randomly, Rosa. He was executed, by council order, for treason. No. Sorin never told you, did he? Drusilla's voice turned almost gentle, which made it worse. That your father died protecting him, that every hardship you faced, growing up without him, your mother's grief, your student debt, all of it traces back to Sorin Vorenthis. Rosa's hands shook. So, here's my offer, Drusilla continued. Walk away, leave London. We'll give you money, enough to finish university, start fresh somewhere safe. Thalia goes free. Sorin stays sealed. Everyone lives. And if I refuse, Drusilla's expression hardened, then I bring you before the council. They'll question you about Sorin's plans, his contacts, his weaknesses, and vampires aren't gentle interrogators. She paused. But that's not the worst part. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. The worst part is what happens to Sorin when he finds out we hurt you. His seal will shatter completely. His power will return. And the council will have exactly the excuse they need to execute him publicly, permanently, with no chance of resurrection. Drusilla stepped back. So choose carefully, Rosa Nightingale. Save yourself and spare him, or stay and doom you both. She snapped her fingers. Thalia blinked, awareness flooding back into her eyes. She looked around, confused and terrified. Rosa, what? Where? You have 48 hours, Drusilla said, already turning away. After that, we come for him, with or without your cooperation. The Nightkin vanished into the shadows like smoke. Rosa caught Thalia as her friend's legs gave out. I'm sorry, Thalia gasped. I couldn't. They were in my head. I couldn't stop them. It's okay. It's not your fault. But Rosa's mind was spinning. Her father, Sorin, the council, the hunters, everything connected. Her phone buzzed again. She finally looked. A text from an unknown number. They're watching your building. Don't come home. Meet me at the address below. Come alone. K. Cadril. Rosa looked at Thalia, pale and shaking, at the empty street where Drusilla had stood, at the address on her screen. 48 hours. She had to know the whole truth, even if it destroyed her. The address led to a cemetery. Of course it did. Rosa helped Thalia into a cab first, making her promise to go straight home and lock every door. Thalia had argued, weakly, but the compulsion had left her drained, shaking. She needed rest, not whatever fresh hell Rosa was walking into. The cemetery gates were locked, but a side entrance stood slightly ajar, deliberate. Rosa slipped through, her phone flashlight cutting through the fog that clung to the headstones like cobwebs. The old church loomed ahead, Gothic and crumbling, abandoned for decades according to the faded historical marker. "You came alone," Rosa spun. Cadril stood between two mausoleums, perfectly still. He'd traded his expensive suit for dark tactical clothing that made him look even more dangerous. "You said to," Rosa replied, keeping her voice steady. "Why here?" "Consecrated ground, harder to spy on." He moved closer, his grey eyes scanning the shadows around them. "Drusilla spoke to you. She told me everything about Sorin, the council, my father." "Not everything." Cadril's jaw tightened. "Your father was a good man. He believed in what Sorin was trying to do. Create a world where vampires and humans could coexist without constant bloodshed. When Sorin refused the massacre order, Daniel helped him escape. And the council killed him for it. Drusilla killed him for it." Cadril's voice went cold. "Personally, she was the one who found out Daniel had helped Sorin flee. She executed him in that alley to send a message." Rosa's chest constricted. "Sorin knows. He found out 3 years later. It nearly destroyed what was left of him." Cadril paused. "He stayed away from you for a reason, Rosa. Not because he doesn't care, because he cares too much. Your father died for him. He won't let you do the same." "That's not his choice to make." "No," Cadril agreed quietly. "It's yours, which is why you need to understand what's really happening." He pulled out a phone, swiped to a video. "This was taken 2 nights ago." Rosa watched. Shaky footage of a warehouse district. 3 vampires walking together, laughing. Then gunfire, not normal bullets. These glowed faintly, leaving trails of silver light. The vampires dropped instantly, screaming, their bodies convulsing as the enchanted silver burned through them. Figures in tactical gear emerged from the shadows, human, armed with weapons that shouldn't exist. They executed the vampires methodically, then vanished. 7 attacks like this in 3 weeks, Cadril said, all purebloods, all killed with enchanted silver that was supposed to be destroyed centuries ago. Drusilla said someone's helping them. She's lying. Cadril's eyes blazed. Because she's the one helping them. Rosa stared. What? Drusilla wants war between vampires and humans. She's been leaking nightkin locations, providing the hunters with targets, even supplying the formula for enchanted silver. He stepped closer. Because chaos gives her power, and war gives her an excuse to do what she's wanted for 15 years. Kill Sorin. Execute him publicly as a traitor. Claim he orchestrated the hunter attacks as revenge against the council. Cadril's voice turned harsh. She's been planning this since the day she helped orchestrate his banishment. Sorin's crown didn't just disappear, she took it. She's been ruling through the council ever since, but she can't officially claim the throne while he's alive. Rosa's mind raced. So she frames him for the attacks, executes him, and takes his throne legally. Exactly. And your connection to him? The fact that his seal is weakening? Cadril smiled grimly. Perfect timing. She'll claim he's regaining power to launch a war, that he manipulated you, the daughter of a man who died for him, into breaking his binding. That's insane. That's politics. Cadril looked toward the church. The council meets in 48 hours. Drusilla's already gathering votes for Sorin's execution, and once they see evidence of the hunters, of the broken seal, of his connection to you... A sound cut through the cemetery. Gunfire. Real. Close. Echoing off the headstones. Cadril moved instantly, pushing Rosa behind a mausoleum. Stay down. What's happening? They followed you. Who? The answer came in the form of silver light streaking through the fog. Enchanted bullets slammed into the mausoleum, sending stone chips flying. Rosa pressed herself flat as Cadril drew a blade from his coat. Not steel, but something darker, older. Hunters, he growled. They're escalating. 3 figures emerged from the fog, dressed in black tactical gear, faces covered. Their weapons gleamed with that same silver glow. Lord Cadril, one called out, voice distorted by a modulator. Step away from the girl. She's human, Cadril replied coldly. She's not your concern. She's protecting banished blood. That makes her a collaborator. The hunter raised their weapon. Last warning. Move aside. Cadril's grip tightened on his blade. No. They opened fire. Cadril moved like smoke, inhuman speed carrying him between Rosa and the bullets. His blade flashed, deflecting 2 shots. The third caught his shoulder. He went down with a hiss of pain, silver burning through his coat. No! Rosa lunged forward. Stay back, Cadril gasped, but she was already beside him, pressing her hands against the wound. The hunters advanced, Rosa's vision blurred with fear and rage. This was wrong. All of it. The politics, the war, the innocent people dying because vampires couldn't stop playing power games. Something shifted in the air. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in an instant. The fog thickened, moving against the wind, and Rosa felt it, that absence of sound that meant something ancient and powerful was near. The hunters felt it too. They stopped, weapons raised, scanning the darkness. A figure stepped from behind the church. Sorin. He looked different, still pale, still weak, but his gold eyes blazed with something Rosa had never seen before. Fury. You followed her, he said quietly. His voice carried, resonant and commanding. You threatened her. The banished king, one hunter said, almost reverent. The formula works. Open fire. Silver bullets streaked towards Sorin. He didn't dodge. He stopped them, mid-air, with nothing but a gesture. The bullets hung suspended, glowing, trembling. Then, with a flick of Sorin's wrist, they reversed course, slamming back into the weapons that fired them. The guns exploded in silver light. The hunters screamed, thrown backward. Sorin walked forward slowly, deliberately. The glyphs on his chest blazed through his shirt, visible now, pulsing with power that made the air shimmer. The seal was cracking. You want a war? Sorin's voice dropped to something ancient, terrible. You have no idea what you're awakening. He raised his hand. The earth itself responded. Vines burst from the cemetery ground, wrapping around the hunters, pinning them. Not killing, just holding. Sorin stopped in front of Rosa and Cadril. His eyes met Rosa's. For just a moment the fury faded, replaced by something achingly human. Fear. I told you to stay away from me, he whispered. Then his eyes rolled back, the glyphs flared one final time, and he collapsed. The vines withered. The hunters scrambled free and fled into the fog. Rosa caught Sorin before he hit the ground, his ice-cold skin somehow colder, his breathing shallow. Cadril struggled to his feet, clutching his wounded shoulder. "The council will hear about this," he said grimly. "Sorin using power. The hunters witnessing it. Drusilla will have her excuse." Rosa looked down at Sorin's unconscious face. 48 hours just became 48 minutes. "Then we don't wait for the council," Rosa said quietly. "We go to them first." Cadril stared at her. "That's suicide." "It's the truth," Rosa's jaw set. "And I'm done letting Drusilla control the narrative." She looked at the phone, still clutched in Cadril's hand. "Tell me how to reach the Night Kin. I want to speak at the council meeting." The Night Kin Council met in a place that didn't officially exist. Beneath London, in tunnels older than the underground, accessible only through passages hidden in plain sight. Cadril led them through a maintenance entrance in an abandoned tube station, down stairs that spiralled impossibly deep. Sorin hadn't woken since the cemetery. Rosa and Cadril had carried him between them, his breathing so shallow it barely registered. The glyphs on his chest had gone dark again, but Rosa could feel the heat radiating from them. The seal was fracturing, badly. "You don't have to do this," Cadril said as they descended. His shoulder wound had already started healing, vampire regeneration working despite the silver. "Let me speak for him. You're human. They won't listen." "They'll listen," Rosa said firmly. "Or I'll make them." The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. Rosa's breath caught. It was beautiful and terrible. Vaulted ceilings carved with symbols that seemed to move in the torchlight. Columns of black stone rising like a fossilized forest. And at the centre a circular table of obsidian, polished to mirror brightness. 13 seats. 11 were occupied. Vampires, all of them, dressed in everything from modern suits to clothes that looked centuries old. Their eyes tracked Rosa's entrance, amber, red, silver, colours that shouldn't exist in human irises. At the head of the table sat Lady Drusilla. She smiled. "Miss Nightingale, how unexpected." Her voice echoed through the chamber. "And you've brought our banished traitor. How convenient." "I brought the truth," Rosa said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. Cadril helped her lower Sorin into a chair at the table's edge. His head lolled forward, gold eyes still closed, breathing laboured. He looked broken, exactly what Drusilla wanted them to see. "The council recognises Rosa Nightingale," Drusilla announced formally. "Speak, human. Tell us why we shouldn't execute you for harbouring banished blood." Rosa stepped forward. Every eye in the room locked on her. "Because Sorin Vorenthis isn't the traitor," she said clearly. "You are." Silence, then laughter, soft, disbelieving, rippling around the table. Drusilla's smile didn't waver. "That's quite an accusation. It's the truth." Rosa pulled out her phone, holding up the video Cadril had shown her. "The hunter attacks 7 pure-blood vampires dead in 3 weeks, killed with enchanted silver that was supposed to be destroyed centuries ago." "We're aware of the attacks," one council member said, an older man with silver hair and red eyes. "Which is why Sorin's recent use of power is so concerning. The timing is suspicious." "The timing is deliberate," Rosa countered, "because Drusilla's been feeding information to the hunters, leaking Night Kin locations, providing them with targets, even supplying the formula for enchanted silver." "Lies," Drusilla said sharply. "Then explain this." Cadril stepped forward, pulling up another file on his phone. "Financial records. Payments from a shell company registered to the Vorenthis estate, which Drusilla controls, to known human weapons manufacturers." Murmurs around the table. "Circumstantial," Drusilla said coldly. "I managed dozens of accounts, hundreds of transactions. You're grasping at shadows. Am I? Cadrill's grey eyes blazed. What about the warehouse attack 2 nights ago? The hunters knew exactly where to strike, exactly when 3 purebloods would be walking through that district. He turned to the council. Only 7 people knew that patrol route. 6 of us are sitting at this table. The 7th, he gestured at Drusilla, is the one who scheduled it. The chamber went deadly quiet. You're accusing me of treason? Drusilla's voice dropped to something dangerous. Based on coincidence and speculation, I've served this council for 15 years. I've protected the Nightkin when Sorin abandoned us. You orchestrated his banishment, Rosa's voice rang out. You wanted his throne. You spread the narrative that he was unstable, that his mercy made him weak. You convinced the council to seal him instead of executing him, because a living failure is better propaganda than a dead martyr. Drusilla stood slowly. And what would a human girl know about vampire politics? About the difficult choices we make to survive? She turned to the council. She's been compromised, emotionally attached to a banished king. She'd say anything to save him. Then let him speak for himself, Rosa said. She moved to Sorin, kneeling beside his chair. Gently she placed her hand over his chest, over the hidden glyphs beneath his shirt. Sorin, she whispered, wake up. They need to hear the truth from you. The glyphs pulsed once, weak but present. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they found her face. Rosa, he breathed, why are you... He looked past her, saw the council, and went rigid. No, you shouldn't be here. Tell them, Rosa urged. Tell them what really happened 15 years ago. Sorin's gold eyes swept the table, landing on faces he clearly recognized. Some looked away. Others held his gaze with expressions ranging from pity to contempt. When he saw Drusilla, something flickered across his face. Old pain, old betrayal. There's nothing to tell, he said quietly. I refused an order. I was punished. That's the end of it. No, Rosa insisted. Sorin, she's framing you. She's helping the hunters. She's going to blame you for the attacks. Let her, Sorin's voice was hollow. I'm already dead. Have been for 15 years. What does it matter? It matters because people are dying, Rosa's voice cracked. Purebloods, humans, my father. Sorin flinched like she'd struck him. Your father, he whispered. Rosa, I never wanted... I know, she gripped his hand. Cadrill told me. My father believed in you, in what you were trying to build. He died protecting that dream. Tears burned her eyes. Don't let Drusilla destroy it. Don't let his death be for nothing. Sorin stared at her, something breaking behind his eyes. Then he turned to the council. When he spoke, his voice was different, stronger, resonant with an authority Rosa had only glimpsed, the voice of a king. 15 years ago, I was ordered to execute 400 humans, men, women, children, because they'd witnessed vampire activity. The council called it necessary. I called it genocide. He stood slowly, Cadrill moving to support him. I refused, and my cousin, he looked at Drusilla, convinced the council that my mercy was weakness, that I'd become too sympathetic to humans, too unstable to lead. You were unstable, Drusilla said. You put human lives above our survival. I put innocent lives above political convenience, Sorin corrected. There's a difference. His glyphs began to glow, faint but visible through his shirt. You sealed me, stripped my power, banished me, made me a cautionary tale. His voice grew stronger. But you made one mistake, Drusilla. He stepped away from Cadrill, standing on his own. You assumed loneliness would keep me weak forever. The glyphs blazed brighter, but someone touched these seals. Someone saw past the broken king to the man beneath. Someone reminded me, his eyes found Rosa's, that mercy isn't weakness. It's the hardest kind of strength. The air in the chamber shifted. Power radiated from Sorin in waves that made the torches flicker. The seal was breaking. "And now," Sorin said softly, dangerously, "I'm going to give you a choice, cousin. The same choice you gave me." He raised his hand. The glyphs on his chest cracked audibly, light spilling through the fractures. "Confess your treason to this council. Admit you've been arming hunters, orchestrating attacks, manipulating vampire law for your own ambition." His gold eyes blazed. "Or I break this seal completely, and we settle this the old way." The chamber erupted, council members shouting, some rising from their seats, others calling for order. Drusilla remained perfectly still, her amber eyes locked on Sorin. Then she smiled, and pulled a gun from beneath the table, enchanted silver, aimed directly at Rosa. "Choose carefully, cousin," Drusilla said softly. "Your mercy, or her life." Rosa stared down the barrel of the gun, her heart frozen mid-beat. The enchanted silver glowed faintly, pulsing like a living thing. Drusilla's smile never wavered. "You see, Council," she said calmly, keeping the weapon trained on Rosa, "this is exactly what I warned you about. Sorin Vorenthis hasn't changed. He's still choosing humans over his own kind, still putting sentiment above survival." "Lower the weapon, Drusilla," Cadril said carefully. "She's innocent." "Is she?" Drusilla tilted her head. "She's harbouring banished blood. She's broken sacred law by interfering with a sealed vampire. And now she stands in our most protected chamber, making accusations against a council member." Her amber eyes glittered. "That sounds like treason to me." Sorin moved, just a fraction, and Drusilla's finger tightened on the trigger. "Don't," she warned. "Your seal is cracking, but you're not fast enough yet. I'll put this bullet through her heart before you take 2 steps." The glyphs on Sorin's chest pulsed frantically, light spilling through widening cracks. His whole body trembled, with barely contained power, and barely contained rage. "This is what you wanted," Sorin said quietly. "From the beginning, force me to choose, make me look weak, no matter what I do." "No, cousin." Drusilla's voice turned cold. "I wanted you to disappear quietly, to fade into nothing, forgotten and powerless, but you couldn't even do that right." She gestured at Rosa with the gun. "You let this human get close, let her break your seal, and now you've forced my hand." By threatening an innocent woman, the silver-haired council member, Lord Matthias, stood slowly. "Drusilla, this is beneath us." "Is it?" Drusilla's gaze swept the table. "Or is it exactly what we've always done? Make the hard choices. Eliminate threats before they destroy us." She looked back at Sorin. "You were supposed to be a lesson, a warning. This is what happens when you value human lives over vampire law. But instead, you've become a liability, a sealed king coming back to power, connected to the daughter of a traitor, at the exact moment hunters are slaughtering our kind." "Because you're helping them!" Rosa shouted. Drusilla laughed, sharp, brittle. "Prove it. Show me concrete evidence that I've had any contact with hunters. Financial records?" She waved dismissively. "Business transactions, patrol schedules, council logistics. Everything you've presented is circumstantial at best." She turned to the council. "But what isn't circumstantial is Sorin's broken seal, his use of power in the cemetery, his connection to this human girl whose father was executed for treason." Her voice rose, commanding the room. "I say Sorin Vorenthis has been planning this for years, waiting for the right moment to strike back at the council that punished him. using the hunters as cover while he regains his strength. "That's insane," Rosa breathed. "Is it?" Drusilla's smile was triumphant. "Tell me, Sorin, when you collapsed outside her apartment, was that really an accident? Or did you choose her specifically, the daughter of the man who died for you? Did you manipulate her sympathy, her grief, knowing she'd take you in?" "No," Sorin said hoarsely. "And these glyphs breaking, pure coincidence that it's happening now, when hunters are active and the council is vulnerable." Drusilla's eyes blazed. "Or carefully orchestrated revenge?" She turned to the council. "He's been playing us all. The weak, pathetic exile was an act. And this girl—" the gun pressed closer to Rosa's chest. "Is either his accomplice or his tool." "She's neither," Sorin said desperately. "Rosa has nothing to do with any of this. She's innocent." "Then why is she here?" Drusilla demanded. "Why is she defending you? Why did she risk her life to bring you before this council?" The question hung in the air. Rosa met Sorin's eyes across the chamber. She saw the fear there, the guilt, the desperate plea for her to run, to save herself. She didn't move. "Because someone has to tell the truth," Rosa said clearly, "even if no one wants to hear it." Drusilla's expression hardened. "The truth is that you're a foolish girl who fell in love with a pretty monster, and now you're going to die for it." "Enough." The word cracked through the chamber like thunder. Another council member stood, a woman with midnight black hair and eyes like polished onyx. Lady Sarah. Even Drusilla seemed to pause at her intervention. "This has gone too far," Lady Sarah said coldly. "Lower the weapon, Drusilla. We don't execute humans in our council chambers without trial. She's a collaborator. She's an unarmed girl making accusations. If you shoot her, you prove those accusations true." Lady Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Is that what you want?" For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Drusilla's face. The gun wavered just an inch. Sorin moved, not fast, he wasn't strong enough yet, but desperately. He lunged between Rosa and the gun, just as Drusilla's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot rang out. Enchanted silver slammed into Sorin's chest directly over the glyphs. He gasped, stumbling backward into Rosa's arms. The silver burned where it hit, smoke rising from the wound. But the glyphs, they exploded. Light erupted from Sorin's chest, blinding and terrible. The binding symbols shattered completely, 15 years of blood magic breaking in an instant. Power flooded the chamber, ancient, overwhelming, making the very air scream. Sorin's eyes blazed pure gold as the seal finally, completely broke. The force threw Drusilla backward, her gun clattering across the floor. Council members dove for cover as the shockwave rippled outward. And then silence. Sorin stood, the gunshot wound already healing, silver burning away like morning fog. His posture changed, straighter, stronger. The broken exile was gone. A king stood in his place. His voice, when he spoke, resonated with absolute authority. "Drusilla Vorenthis, you are accused of treason, conspiracy, and attempted murder before the Night Kin Council." His gold eyes were merciless. "How do you plead?" Drusilla scrambled to her feet, rage and fear warring on her face. "You have no authority here. You were banished." "I was banished," Sorin agreed. His hand moved to his chest where the glyphs had been. Now there was only smooth skin and a faint scar in the shape of a crown. But the seal is broken, the binding dissolved, and by ancient law, when a Vorenthis king's power returns, his banishment is voided. He stepped forward. "Which means I'm well within my rights to call for a formal investigation, to demand evidence, to question every decision you've made since my exile." Panic flashed in Drusilla's eyes. She lunged for the gun. Cadril was faster. His boot came down on the weapon, kicking it away. 2 other council members moved to restrain Drusilla, holding her arms as she struggled. "Search her holdings," Lady Sarah commanded. "Bank records, communications, all of it. If there's proof of contact with hunters, we'll find it." "You're making a mistake," Drusilla snarled. "He's manipulating you. He'll destroy everything we've built." "Everything I built," Sorin corrected quietly. "Everything you stole." He turned to the council. "I don't want my throne back. I don't want power or revenge." His voice softened. "I just want the truth, and I want the killing to stop on both sides." He looked at Rosa, and something in his expression made her chest ache. "That's all I've ever wanted." Lord Matthias stood slowly. "The council will investigate Lady Drusilla's activities. Until we have answers, she will be confined and stripped of voting rights." He looked at Sorin. "And you, Sorin Vorenthis, will submit to council questioning about your intentions. Your seal is broken, your power restored. We need to know what you plan to do with it." "I plan to stop a war," Sorin said simply. Drusilla laughed, wild, bitter. "You can't stop what's already started, cousin. The hunters are armed, the vampires are dying, and when the humans discover what we really are, what we can really do," her smile turned vicious, "your precious peace will burn." She met Sorin's eyes. "Just like everything else you've ever loved." Guards dragged her from the chamber, her voice echoing. "This isn't over. You haven't won. You've only—" The door slammed shut. Silence fell. Rosa's legs finally gave out. She sat hard on the stone floor, adrenaline crash hitting like a wave. Sorin knelt beside her immediately. "Are you hurt?" She laughed, shaky, disbelieving. "You just took a bullet for me and broke a 15-year seal, and you're asking if I'm hurt?" "Yes," he said seriously. Rosa looked at him, really looked. His face was the same, pale, sharp, beautiful. But something was different. The weight of powerlessness was gone, the resignation, the defeat. He looked like himself again. "We need to find proof," Rosa said. "Real evidence connecting Drusilla to the hunters, before she finds a way out of this." Sorin's hand covered hers. "We will," he promised. "But first," his gold eyes held hers. "Thank you for seeing me when I'd forgotten how to see myself." Rosa's breath caught. Before she could respond, Cadril appeared above them. "Hate to interrupt," he said grimly, "but we have a problem." He held up his phone. "Breaking news. Multiple vampire attacks reported across London. Hunters mobilizing. Human casualties confirmed." Rosa's blood went cold. "Drusilla said this wasn't over," Cadril continued. "I think she had a contingency plan." "She's escalating the war," Sorin realized, "forcing both sides into open conflict." He stood, pulling Rosa up with him, his expression hardened. "Then we end this, tonight." The war had already started. By the time they reached the surface, London was burning, not literally, not yet, but close enough. Police sirens wailed through the night. Helicopters circled above the Thames, and on every screen, every phone, the same footage played on loop, vampires attacking humans in broad daylight. Except Rosa knew what she was seeing, the jerky movements, the glazed eyes, the way the vampires moved like puppets on strings. "Compulsion," she breathed. "Mass compulsion," Cadril confirmed grimly, watching the footage over her shoulder. Drusilla must have activated sleeper agents, low-level vampires she'd been controlling, waiting for the right moment. Sorin stood apart from them, staring at the chaos with an expression Rosa couldn't read. His power hummed beneath his skin now, visible in the way the air shimmered around him, the way shadows bent toward him like living things. The seal was completely gone. "She's forcing the reveal," Sorin said quietly. "If vampires are exposed attacking humans, the government will respond. Military intervention, martial law, and the hunters will have official sanction," Cadril finished. "Legal permission to exterminate us." Rosa's mind raced. "Can you break the compulsion? Free the vampires she's controlling?" Sorin's jaw tightened. "Maybe, if I can find the source, the anchor she's using to maintain control over so many at once." "It'll be something personal," Cadril said. "Blood-bonded. Probably kept somewhere she considers safe." "Her estate," Rosa realised. "The Vorenthis manor. She's been living there since she took everything from me." Sorin's gold eyes blazed. "Yes, that's where she'd keep it." He turned to face them fully. "The manor is fortified, protected by blood wards that recognise Vorenthis lineage. She'll have guards, traps, contingencies." He paused. "And if we're wrong, if the anchor isn't there, we'll have wasted the only time we have to stop this." "Then we don't waste time," Rosa said firmly. "We go now." Sorin looked at her, really looked, and something shifted in his expression. "No, I go. You've done enough, Rosa, more than enough. This isn't your war." "Like hell it isn't." Rosa stepped closer. "My father died for this, for the world you were trying to build. And I'm not letting Drusilla destroy it because you're trying to protect me." "Rosa!" "Besides," she cut him off, "you need me. Those blood wards, they recognise Vorenthis blood. But Drusilla's been in control for 15 years. She'll have changed the permissions, locked you out." Cadril nodded slowly. "She's right. You'll trigger every defence the moment you step inside." "Then what do you suggest?" Sorin's voice was strained. Rosa pulled out her phone, scrolling to the photo Drusilla had shown her, her father standing beside a younger Sorin. "My father was royal. Guard, that means he had access, right? Clearance to enter protected spaces?" "Daniel was bonded to the Vorenthis line," Cadril confirmed. "His bloodline would carry trace recognition." "Through his daughter," Sorin finished, understanding dawning. "Rosa, that's brilliant. And dangerous. And absolutely not happening." "It's already happening," Rosa met his gaze. "You can't stop me. Neither of you can, so either we work together or I go alone." For a long moment Sorin just stared at her. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Sad and proud, and something that made Rosa's heart stutter. "You're more stubborn than your father," he said softly. "Good thing I learned from the best." The Vorenthis estate sat outside London proper, hidden behind ancient trees and older magic. The manor itself was Gothic and sprawling, all dark stone and sharp towers that clawed at the sky. It looked like it was waiting to devour them. They approached on foot, leaving Cadril's car a mile back, stealth over speed. Sorin moved differently now, fluid, predatory, every inch the king he'd once been. But his hand found Rosa's in the darkness, ice cold, trembling slightly. "Second thoughts," she whispered. "Hundreds," he admitted. "But we're past the point of turning back." They reached the gate, wrought iron twisted into thorned roses. The moment Sorin's fingers touched it, the metal screamed. He jerked back as the thorns came alive, writhing, reaching for him. Blood wards, active and hostile. "Let me," Rosa said. She placed her palm against the gate. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, warmth. The metal pulsed once, recognizing something in her blood. The thorns retreated, curling back into decorative stillness. The gate swung open. "Daniel Nightingale's daughter," Cadril murmured. "Welcome home." They moved through the grounds quickly. More wards flickered as they passed, testing, probing. But each time, Rosa's presence satisfied them, her father's legacy protecting her even now. The manor's entrance was unlocked, because why lock a door when magic defends it better than any bolt? Inside, the air tasted old. Dust motes drifted through moonlight, filtering through stained glass windows. Portraits lined the walls, generations of Vorenthis vampires staring down with judgmental eyes. Sorin stopped before one, a painting of himself, younger, crowned, radiating power and confidence, a king in his prime. "I barely recognize him," he whispered. "That's because you've become someone better," Rosa said quietly. "Someone who chose mercy over power." His hand tightened on hers. They found the study on the second floor. Cadril picked the lock with practiced ease, and they slipped inside. The room was exactly what Rosa expected. Opulent, organised, and dripping with Drusilla's aesthetic. Mahogany desk, silk curtains, and on the wall, a map of London marked with red pins. Each pin marked a location. Rosa recognised some immediately. The warehouse where vampires had been killed, the cafe where she worked, the cemetery where they'd been ambushed, every attack, every death, meticulously planned. "This is the proof we need," Cadril said, already photographing the map. "Physical evidence of—" "The anchor!" Sorin interrupted. He stood before a glass case on the far wall. Inside, suspended in preservation magic, was a silver chalice filled with dark liquid. Blood. "Vorenthis royal blood," Sorin breathed. "Mixed with compulsion serum. That's what she's using to control the sleeper agents." Rosa moved closer. "Can you destroy it?" "If I touch it, the compulsion breaks, but—" His expression darkened. "The backlash will alert every vampire Drusilla controls. They'll know exactly where we are." "Let them come," Cadril said coldly. "We have what we need." Sorin reached for the case. The door behind them exploded inward. Drusilla stood in the doorway, flanked by 6 vampires with eyes like burning coals. "Hello, cousin," she said pleasantly. "I was hoping you'd come home." She stepped into the study, her amber eyes sweeping over the photographed map, the exposed chalice, the 3 of them trapped. "Did you really think I'd leave my most valuable asset unguarded?" She smiled. "This was never my insurance. It was my trap." The vampires moved to surround them. Rosa pressed against Sorin's back, heart hammering. "You can't win this, Drusilla," Sorin said. "We have proof. The council will—" "The council is dead," Drusilla said flatly. The words hit like a physical blow. "What?" Cadril breathed. "Hunter attack 30 minutes ago. Enchanted silver, military-grade weapons, perfect intelligence." Drusilla's smile widened. "Lord Matthias, Lady Serrar, all of them, gone." "You killed them," Rosa whispered. "I liberated us," Drusilla corrected, "from outdated laws and weak leadership. And now—" She gestured at the chaos, visible through the window, London burning in the distance. "Now I'll rebuild. A new council, new laws, with me as its head." She looked at Sorin. "And you, dear cousin, as its martyr." "You're insane," Cadril said. "I'm necessary." Drusilla's voice turned sharp. "Sorin had his chance to lead. He chose mercy, weakness. And look where it got him. 15 years of suffering, powerless and pathetic." She stepped closer. "I won't make his mistakes. I'll do what needs to be done, even if it means war, even if it means sacrificing everything soft and gentle about our kind." Her eyes found Rosa. "Starting with her." The vampires lunged. Sorin moved first, faster than thought, his newly freed power exploding outward. 2 attackers went flying, slamming into walls hard enough to crack stone. But there were too many. One got past him, claws extended, heading straight for Rosa. Cadril intercepted, his blade flashing. Blood sprayed. The vampire screamed. Rosa scrambled toward the chalice. If she could destroy the anchor, break the compulsion. Drusilla caught her wrist. "Clever girl," she purred, "but not clever enough." She slammed Rosa against the case, the glass cracking. The chalice tipped, blood sloshing. "Sorin!" Rosa gasped. He turned, saw her trapped in Drusilla's grip, and his power erupted. The room shook, windows shattered. The very air seemed to scream as 15 years of suppressed rage and grief and desperate love poured out of him. The true power of a Vorenthis king. The attacking vampires froze, driven to their knees by the sheer force of his presence. Even Drusilla stumbled back, releasing Rosa. Sorin's eyes blazed gold-white, his voice resonating with absolute command. "Enough!" The word carried weight, physical, undeniable. Every vampire in the room felt it in their bones. He raised his hand toward the chalice. "I strip you of your stolen authority, Drusilla Vorenthis. I break your hold on our bloodline, and I free every soul you've enslaved." His hand closed into a fist. The chalice shattered. Blood sprayed across the study, and with it the compulsion broke. Across London, controlled vampires gasped awake, awareness flooding back. Drusilla screamed. Her power, built on that anchor, faltered. Sorin stood before her, terrible and beautiful, a king reclaimed. "You wanted war, cousin. You wanted power at any cost." He stepped forward. "Let me show you what real power looks like." The manor fell silent. Drusilla lay unconscious at Sorin's feet, her power shattered along with the chalice. The compelled vampires had fled the moment their minds cleared, stumbling into the night with horror in their eyes at what they'd been forced to do. Cadril was already on the phone with what remained of vampire leadership. Rosa sat on the floor amid broken glass and spilled blood, watching Sorin. He stood perfectly still, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. The hands of a king who'd just reclaimed his throne. "The council's not completely gone," Cadril said, lowering his phone. 3 members survived the attack. They're calling an emergency session at dawn. He paused. "They want you there, Sorin. They're already talking about restoration, returning your crown." Sorin's jaw tightened. "No." Cadril blinked. "No?" "I don't want it." Sorin's voice was quiet but absolute. "I broke the seal to stop Drusilla, to end the war, not to reclaim power." "Sorin, find someone else." He turned away. "Someone who actually wants to rule, who won't hesitate when hard choices need to be made." He walked out of the study without looking back. Rosa scrambled to her feet and followed. She found him on the manor's terrace, staring out at London's skyline. Dawn was breaking, pale gold light washing over the city. Smoke still rose from scattered fires, but the chaos had quieted. The war was over, for now. "You can't just walk away," Rosa said softly. Sorin didn't turn. "Watch me. They need you. They need a king." His hands gripped the stone railing. "Someone strong, decisive, willing to make the choices I can't. Like massacring innocents? Like doing whatever it takes to protect our kind." His voice cracked. "I failed at that 15 years ago. I'll fail again." Rosa moved to stand beside him. "You didn't fail. You chose mercy. You chose to see humans as people, not problems to be eliminated. And my people paid the price." Sorin finally looked at her, and the pain in his gold eyes was devastating. "Your father paid the price. You almost paid it tonight." His hand lifted toward her face, then dropped. "Everyone I try to protect ends up hurt." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" His smile was bitter. "You found a dying man in the rain, someone weak, broken, safe, and I—" His voice broke. "I let you get close. let you touch those seals, let you risk everything for someone who could never give you a normal life. He stepped back. You loved a weak man, Rosa, not a king. The words hung between them. You deserve freedom, Sorin continued quietly. A life without vampire politics and blood wars and looking over your shoulder. Without me. Sorin, Cadril will make sure you're protected. The new council will compensate you for... Stop, Rosa's voice cut through his spiralling words. She stepped forward, closing the distance he'd tried to create. You're right, she said. I did fall in love with a weak man. Pain flashed across his face. I fell in love with someone who collapsed in the rain and still used his last breath to warn me about danger, who refused blood even when he was starving, who flinched at church bells because torture had been woven into his soul. Her hand found his, ice-cold and trembling. I fell in love with someone who took a bullet meant for me, who broke 15 years of suffering because he couldn't stand to see me hurt, who chose mercy over revenge even when revenge would have been easier. Tears burned her eyes. So yes, I loved a weak man. I loved his gentleness, his grief, his absolutely stubborn refusal to become the monster everyone expected. She squeezed his hand. And I still love him, king or not. Sorin stared at her like she'd spoken a language he'd forgotten. Rosa, I have nothing to offer you. No throne, no power. I don't want a throne, she interrupted. I want the man who asked me not to let them find him. The man who sat upright in my chair because he'd forgotten how to rest. The man who looked at me like I was the first real thing he'd seen in 15 years. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I want you, Sorin, just you. You don't know what you're asking, he said desperately. A life with me means danger, being target to anyone who resents what I represent, never being fully safe. I was never fully safe, Rosa countered. My father died in vampire politics before I even understood what that meant. I've been part of this world since birth. I just didn't know it. She stepped closer until their faces were inches apart. So stop trying to protect me from a choice I've already made. Rosa! I choose you, she said firmly. Not the crown, not the power, not the legend. Just the man who's standing here trying so hard to push me away because he thinks he's saving me. A single tear traced down Sorin's cheek, the first she'd ever seen him shed. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, Rosa agreed with a watery smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. For a long moment he just looked at her, really looked like he was memorizing every detail, every curve of her face. Then slowly, deliberately, he knelt, not the graceful formal kneel of a king before his court, but something rawer, more vulnerable, a man surrendering to something stronger than power. I can't promise you safety, Sorin said quietly, looking up at her, or normalcy, or any of the things you deserve. His hands found hers, holding them like they were the most precious things in existence. But I can promise you this, every choice I make, every battle I fight, every breath I take, his voice cracked, it will be to build the world your father believed in, the world where humans and vampires don't have to fear each other. His gold eyes blazed with something beyond power, purpose, love, hope. If you'll stand beside me, not behind me, not beneath me, but beside me, I'll spend eternity trying to be worthy of that choice. Rosa's tears fell freely now. You already are, she whispered. She pulled him to his feet and kissed him. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't careful. It was 15 years of loneliness breaking, two people choosing each other despite every reason not to. When they finally pulled apart, Sorin rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he breathed. "I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you touched my glyphs. Maybe when you stood before the council and called Drusilla a traitor. Maybe the moment you knelt beside me in the rain and chose compassion over fear. Maybe all of it," Rosa said softly. "Maybe love doesn't have one moment. Maybe it's built from 100 small choices." "Then I choose you," Sorin said. "Every moment, every choice, for as long as you'll have me." Behind them, Cadril cleared his throat. They turned to find him standing in the terrace doorway, trying very hard not to smile. "Hate to interrupt," he said dryly, "but the surviving council members are here. They want to speak with you both." "Tell them," Sorin started. "Tell them yourself," Cadril interrupted, "because whether you take the crown or not, you're the only one they'll listen to right now." Sorin looked at Rosa. She smiled. "We face them together, remember?" He squeezed her hand. "Together." The meeting was brief. The 3 surviving council members, Lord Matthias, Lady Yeon, and an ancient vampire named Silas, listened as Sorin explained his terms. "I won't take the throne," he said clearly, "but I'll serve as advisor, help rebuild what Drusilla destroyed, create new laws that protect both humans and vampires." "And the girl?" Lady Yeon asked, eyeing Rosa. "Rosa Nightingale is under my personal protection," Sorin said firmly. "She's proven herself more loyal and courageous than half this council. If anyone has a problem with her presence—" "We don't," Lord Matthias interrupted with a slight smile. "Welcome to vampire politics, Miss Nightingale. Try not to let it kill you." Rosa laughed despite herself. "I'll do my best." 3 months later. The cafe where Rosa worked had new ownership, a quiet investment from an anonymous donor that paid off her student loans and gave her a position managing their art gallery space. She suspected Cadril's involvement but couldn't prove it. Sorin had taken a flat in her building, 2 floors down, close enough to matter, far enough to let her breathe. He was different now. Still quiet, still careful, but the weight of powerlessness was gone. He smiled more, laughed occasionally, slept lying down. The vampire world was rebuilding, slowly, carefully, with humans finally, tentatively, being brought into the conversation. It would take time, generations maybe, but they had time. Rosa was closing the gallery late one evening when Sorin appeared in the doorway, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "You don't drink coffee," she pointed out. "No, but you do. And I like watching you enjoy things. That smile, the one that was just for her." She took the cup and kissed him soft and sure. "Thank you," she said, "for choosing me too." "Always," Sorin promised. They walked home through London streets hand in hand, a fallen king and an art student who'd saved each other in the rain. Not a fairy tale ending, but a real one, and that was more than enough. The end. Rosa chose love over safety, Sorin chose mercy over revenge. And together they proved that sometimes the weakest looking people are actually the strongest. Now, I want to hear from you. Would you have chosen differently? Could you love someone whose past put a target on your back? Drop your answer in the comments, hit that like button if this story gave you feelings, and subscribe because we're just getting started with stories that'll make you believe in love that breaks curses, defies councils, and rewrites destinies. See you in the next one. Stay wild, stay kind, and never underestimate the power of someone who kneels by choice.